Hey everybody, and welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and on this episode, we're taking a look at a brand new Indiana Jones statue, but as you can see here, this is not, well, this is one Dr. Jones, but it's not the Dr. Jones you might have been expecting, because today we're taking a look at Diamond Select's 1/6 scale mini bust of Dr. Henry Jones. That's right, this is based on Sean Connery's portrayal of Dr. Henry Jones in The Last Crusade, the final of the original trilogy of Indiana Jones films. This was an unexpected entry when I first saw this guy during Toy Fair last year, and I'm excited to take a look at it in person because, admittedly, I remember looking at this thing in the event and thinking to myself, like, wow, this actually looks really good. And I don't believe that Diamond has done anything with Sean Connery's face before. This might be their very first time handling his likeness. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is. So I'm curious to see how this is going to shape up once we see him out of the packaging. But first, let's talk about this box here. And this is essentially like all of the other boxes you get with any of the resin pieces. Well, except for one kind of big change here. Typically with resin pieces, it'll just have a solid black color typically, or maybe something else. But in the case of this Indiana Jones piece here, it's more of a kind of like maroon color. And there's this really cool kind of like Mayan look here, sort of like real old architecture type look here that you'd find in a Mayan temple somewhere, which really adds a lot to that whole feeling of adventure that you want to get with a piece like this. So it's really great. It helps with the logo as well. The fact that the logo is just so awesome and pops really nicely here. So that looks really cool. And the sides are like pretty much the sides of any of the other pieces as well. There are no windows with a resin piece, but you do have more images of the statue, or at least proto photos of it, as to see how it's going to look from different angles. And then finally the back, which has, well, once again, a big old photo of Dr. Henry Jones. And you can get a good glimpse of how he's going to look in theory once we get him out of the packaging here. And right below that is this big lump O text over here. Now, this is not really telling us who Dr. Jones Sr. is, but in this case, it is kind of just a run-through of what The Last Crusade is about. So if you haven't seen the movie, there you go. Although in that case, why are you buying a statue of Dr. Henry Jones? But whatever, who am I to argue? And right below that, it just lets us know about the production of this piece, and more importantly, that this is limited to 3,000 pieces. Now, unlike a lot of the PVC pieces, we don't get any credits for anybody's name, so we don't know who made this piece, but, well, hey, whoever did it, hats off to them. So that's enough about the box. Let's go ahead and get Dr. Henry Jones out of this packaging and take a closer look at him from all angles. And here is our Dr. Henry Jones out of the packaging. And the minute I saw this head here, I said to myself, this might be one of the best head sculpts I've seen on a resin piece from Diamond Select ever. And that is some very high praise. I've looked at a lot of resin pieces on this channel here, so for me to say that, that's something. But that's just a quick glance. I'm going to spend some more time looking at the head in a minute. First things first, let me give you guys a quick rotation so you can see how this is going to look from all angles, and then we'll really dive into things. But yeah, my first glance at this piece here is I'm like, I will admit, at first I was like, who would want a piece like this? But then I start looking at it from these angles, because again, this is my first time seeing it too, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, there's a lot going on in this piece. There's a lot more than I expected with something like this. So this to me is just like, wow, okay, if you're an indie collector, then ooh, this is a definite must buy already. I'm not seeing much that disappoints me here at all so far. And to be honest, everything just looks like near perfection. So we will see about that in one moment, but let's go ahead and kick this video off now by spending a little bit more time with that Sean Connery portrait and asking the question of whether or not this head sculpt here looks like the man it's supposed to be. Does it look like Sean Connery? And that's a definite yes to me. This is spot on. There is no debate about who this is meant to be. They got everything right about this head sculpt. It doesn't matter what angle you look at it from, it's just perfection. Like, that's it. They nailed it. I have nothing else to say. Like, there's no bads about this. I mean, even the wrinkles, the way they sculpted the beard, the way the beard is painted as well. Everything about this is just, they got it. They got it all. I was worried too, but because when you see glasses sometimes, like, that could be a way to hide some of the sculpting elements. But in this case, no, like, it's part of it. It definitely works, and the glasses are excellent too. They look like they're a separate piece. Recently we looked at another Indiana Jones resin piece that was part of the Treasures lineup, and I noted how something about it looked kind of weird. And I realized later on that it was basically the hat. I think it was the hat and the head, and basically they weren't really sitting right together, and that made Indy's head bigger because they just sculpted it to kind of fit the hat. It was weird, didn't work out. In the case of this Dr. Jones statue though, this time around they definitely got the head shape and that hat shape to match, so that looks great all around. That nose is perfect. That nose is just perfect Sean Connery. Wow. The expression is also very good. you know, it might be a little bit expressionless to some degree, but that kind of matches the character a lot in the film, for a good amount of the film, I should say. From behind, not really a ton to talk about here. We do just have more of that fun-looking hat. Really nice paint job on that too, and this has a really great texture to it that separates it from the rest of the piece. It is a different texture than what's on the suit, which we're going to talk about momentarily as well. But yeah, overall, I mean, you really can't beat this head sculpt. This is just, wow, from every single angle, they got this. This is perfect. All right, if I'm just going to grade the head sculpt 1 to 10, like that's a 10. That's an easy 10. I don't think I've given too many pieces on this channel a 10 before from Diamond and the resin stuff. That's a 10 from me. But all right, let's go ahead and scroll down a bit and see if that high score will continue, because the rest of the piece might not be as interesting at first glance, but it is still pretty strong. And so here's the fun thing about this piece, right? We're going to talk about his body, but a lot of his body is actually covered. Like this is just kind of a fun looking shot here, but most of his body is covered by his luggage and his umbrella. This kind of hides so much of him. You know, there's not much we can see from the front, right? So I guess we gotta just talk about this luggage first, which again has great texture. This piece has amazing texture, which, you know, I've already been talking about a little bit here, but this has a separate texture than the hat, as well as it's separate from the jacket he's wearing, and it's separate from the base too. So a lot of texture. I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera, but the paint job on this briefcase also is very nice. Very solid, great sculpting too. Lots of tiny little details. You can see the stitching that's on this piece here. I mean, let's show you from the side how this is going to look as well. Just tons of little detail here. And I guess we can go into the body a little bit more too from the other side, because here's you can see what I'm talking about, the texture. This has got a rough texture. It really makes it feel like it's that kind of, I don't know if it's tweed or what the material is, but you feel like this is that material that he wore in the film, and you're seeing it now up close and in person, and that's really adding a lot of personality to the piece. And again, talk about detail. We've got 3 buttons across the sleeve here. We'll give them a quick turn just so you can see what the back looks like here. Again, you guys see what I'm talking about with all that texture. You can see that texture, and that adds a lot of life and a lot of depth to the piece also. Likewise, as we'll give them another turn here, see what's going on with the hands. I think the hands are sculpted really well. And we can't forget this umbrella that we've got here too, which is very cool. This might be like a point to worry about maybe as far as the sculpture goes, because if this falls and that snaps off, it will most likely be the part that breaks off of this thing here. So I guess just be careful about that. Not much you can do with it, but it is what it is. But I think these hands are really gorgeous looking, very lifelike. Here's a better look at them from a different angle as well. You can see him just really clutching onto the handle of his briefcase there, which, again, he's meant to be kind of very nervous. He's not the same adventurer that his son is these days, right? So you can just kind of really get a sense of who this character is between his facial expression, between his body language. Like, he's a very stiff character who is maybe not the most comfortable at this point that we're seeing him in statue form. But that is part of the story of this piece. And by the way, I can't neglect the very awesome looking bow tie, which has a really great paint job on it too. And just again, lots more little tiny details. There's so much little tiny details everywhere in this piece. It just blows me away. Now again, because we have this giant piece of luggage on the front of us here, we really can't go in depth really much more beyond that. I mean, and it's, again, we have the same thing on the back here. There's not much happening here. The story of the piece is essentially just how nervous this guy is. But we do have to talk about here is the base. And as it was turning, like I said, that was my first time seeing the base turning. I didn't realize some of the different details that were here. So we'll just start with the fact that we have this very old style sort of well that's meant to be the base here, which I think is really cool. Great color choice. Really works well with the suit jacket and everything else going on in the piece here. But what is really, really fun is like hiding right behind him, there's the Holy Grail in this like chunk of the wall that's missing. That is really cool. The Grail looks great, by the way. It is not removable. We got another Grail in the treasure statue that we looked at. It had 3 separate hands, and that was one of the hands. Each hand had a different artifact from the original trilogy. We had the fertility idol from Raiders. We had the Sankara stone from Temple of Doom, and we had the Grail, which we're getting once again. So another chalice. This one, though, not removable, but very cool, very fun little detail here. And speaking of the base, by the way, underneath the base, that's where you would find the limited edition number of the pieces, because again, these are limited to 3,000. In my case, this is in artist proof, so it's unnumbered. So yeah, I'm not gonna have any information for you there, but it'll be here as well as on a certificate of authenticity. Overall, this is pretty darn gorgeous. I will admit that while the pose might be boring, let's say, compared to any other character, and I mean really literally any other character out there that we've gotten works of from Diamond, But here's the thing about this piece. This is so lifelike. It is so realistic. The detail is spot on. The different texture we have here, the paint job is near perfect. I think it's because it's so simple that helps make it have a much higher score here. But again, I'm grading this thing really high. If I was going to give it 1 to 10 rating, I mean, I don't want to give something a 10 because it's a big number to make the commitment to, but I'll definitely say it's like a 9.5 at the very minimum. This thing is great. I don't know what we could have done to have made this piece more action-packed, really, but what we have, I think, is spectacular. That head sculpt, though, that's really where the action is. I mean, no matter what angle you look at it from, it just looks great. Even from this one right here, where I just randomly paused it, like, this looks like Sean Connery. If I zoom in on it right now, like, come on, tell me that's not Sean Connery. That's not Dr. Jones. That is beautiful. So, yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this piece. I have nothing bad to say about it whatsoever. Could it have been a different pose? Maybe, but I mean, this is a bust after all. Maybe they'll do a PVC version with a different pose that might be a little more exciting to look at, perhaps. But for what we're getting here, this scale, this size, this price point, this is pretty much perfection here. So if you'd like to get this statue for yourself, well, you can go ahead and check out my affiliate links in the description of this video below. You click on any of those links, it helps support this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. So please consider clicking that. And hey, don't forget, let me know what you think about this piece too, and if you think I'm being too generous at my grading, or if you think I'm spot on. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. That's our look at the Dr. Henry Jones 1/6 scale resin bust from Diamond Select. Until then, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. We'll see you guys next time.